If you've gone through the worst day of your life already, be thankful that at whatever age you are, the worst day that you will ever live through has already happened. So it's 11:30 p.m. on a Friday night, and instead of socialising, I'm on my way to the gym because I don't really have much of a life, but that's okay. The gym at least keeps me somewhat, arguably not sane. I think I want to try and create these videos on top of my additional content, maybe once a week or every other week, where I kind of treat it like a mental health recovery journal, because obviously with the recent seemingly BPD and DID diagnosis, and obviously having started DBT yesterday, and obviously in addition to doing a lot of individual therapy each week, it kind of makes sense to document, you saw me before I started. This runs until April 4th, I believe. Let's see where I am at the end of it, and obviously use that as almost not only just a diary of mental health recovery, but also a training diary too, because obviously I'm going to do it while I train. Firstly, what I want to say is obviously how much I appreciate all of the kind comments, all of the kind words, all of the support, all of the shares, everything that you guys have done for me in response to the recent videos, to the one I released last week, the first one of this series. That is genuinely, it does mean a lot to me, and genuinely it's very overwhelming, but in a good way, seeing how well received it was, because obviously when you post something, I think especially as a man, but actually as anyone, when you post something where you are being quite vulnerable about a very, I think, scary topic, and quite a vulnerable topic, being mental health, you never know how it's going to be received. And I get a lot of anxiety when I post videos in general of how my video is going to be received at the best of times, let alone when I'm actively saying, this is what's happened, this is what's been occurring. I'm very scared, essentially. And obviously if you can't be bothered to listen to me waffle, just skip forward and you're going to see training footage of me kind of talking through my workouts and why I'm doing things. But like I said, I want these videos to be a bit longer, where I can really just kind of talk to you about everything, training, educate you, entertain you, and inform you on what's going on from just a mental health and also physical health perspective. One thing I kind of said in the last video is I allow myself a period of feeling particularly bad, where I allow my training to go a bit out the window. I allow things to maybe not be as optimal as they should be, while I'm in a slump, where I almost try and get as much of it out for that period as possible before then turning around and say, you know what, I've allowed myself to feel really bad for a week, 2 weeks, however long it's been. Now I'm going to try and sort it out. There's some, I think, almost power in admitting that you have toxic traits, because no one wants to admit they have toxic traits, but I can certainly admit that I do. I take a lot of the mentality, for myself anyway, and I don't often apply this mentality to other people, but I kind of try and put it to myself, is you have kind of two options with things. You either let things consume you and you essentially lay down and die, or you make a change and you do everything in your power to try and get better. And I'm not guaranteeing you ever will get better, because I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee that I will get better. And I spoke about this in the last video, how that's a scary thought for me. One of the things I struggle with is lack of certainty. I'm not very good with uncertainty, which is hard because there is a lot of uncertainty in life. And that uncertainty, or uncertainty in general, can give me a lot of anxiety, which is why obviously I mentioned in the last video that it's scary not knowing things are going to get better. Obviously I hope they do, and I want them to, but I don't know that for certain, and that's quite hard. But what I do know for certain is that I can at least try everything in my power to do my best to make things better. I can't guarantee it will work, but at least I can try everything possible to say, you know what, I did everything. I gave it my best chance. I gave it my best shot. And if things didn't get better, I couldn't have done anything else. And I think that's kind of where I am at now, which is why I'm trying to take this kind of mentality shift. I've given myself a couple of weeks of feeling really quite miserable, to be honest. And if I told you I'm not feeling miserable now, that would be a lie. I do have some periods throughout the day I'm actually you know what, I'm okay. But then, blink of an eye, it just plummets and I just spiral. I had a really bad spiral last night for a couple of hours, a really bad one. But then I can also acknowledge it's okay to spiral. It's okay to be like that. It's okay to have a bad time or a bad period. But what can I do to try and pull myself out of it? That's where self-help things come into it. I'm doing a lot of reading. Well, actually, I actually don't like reading that much, but I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks at the moment to try and help me find a better sense of self, because it's kind of help me process a lot of the things that might have happened to me in the past and overcome them and learn from them and be better because of them, things like that. So I'm actively putting in a lot of work. Like I said, I'm in therapy 10 hours a week, plus the homework, which is quite time consuming, plus all this reading, listening, journaling, writing, kind of trying to put all those things in action. So at least I can turn around and say BPD, DID, has really negatively impacted and potentially ruined my life for many years, but I've refused to let it continue to do so without even trying my best to manage it and prevent it. Again, I can't cure these things, you can't cure these things, but you can manage them, and you can essentially go through periods where you're no longer symptomatic and therefore no longer meeting the diagnostic criteria, therefore essentially in remission from these disorders like BPD. And again, I'm not making these videos because I do not want sympathy. I'm not trying to get sympathy from anyone. I'm simply making these videos as a task to myself to actually be honest and open and have a very vulnerable conversation and not lie about my feelings and not pretend everything's fine, and just kind of put myself out there as almost like a display of ability to do so for myself, but also to hopefully help other people have this conversation, to hopefully have this video potentially help somebody, maybe encourage somebody to reach out to me, to another friend, whoever it may be, to essentially show vulnerability, be honest, be open, and kind of express themselves in that sense. Or maybe even for this video to be sent to somebody who it might benefit. I'm trying to do this, like I said, not only for my benefit, but hopefully in an attempt to benefit somebody else. All I would say is a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people did message me following the recent video, which I do appreciate. But I also really hope that people know that you do not have to struggle in silence. There are people who will listen to you and people who will try and do their best just to be there to comfort you, or maybe even to help you if they can. And that's why in the TFNL Discord, which is always linked below, there's a need to talk section where people are quite open about what's going on, what's bothering them, the hardships they're facing, where you have a collective community of many people who are there to listen, to hopefully offer aid, or even just a bit of comfort and support. I know for a fact Austin is very active in there when things do arise, because mental health is also something that's very important to him. He's helped me through a lot of really tough periods in my life. Although him and I wind each other up on a regular basis, I guess as part of friendship, we do egg each other on. He's a very caring man, and he's also very active in the Need to Talk section, where he will always kind of go above and beyond to try and help people who are struggling, as will many of the other members of the TFNL Discord. So I do really strongly encourage people who might feel a bit alone, feel a bit lonely, as I often do, to join, and if they do feel comfortable, vent themselves and express themselves in the Need to Talk section, knowing that people are only there to support you, never to hinder you. That's probably enough for me waffling. We're going to go to the gym, we're going to hit shoulders and arms, and we're going to have a good time. I'm actually at the gym now, obviously, you can tell. There's actually someone here. No one's ever at this gym. I'm really hoping this doesn't get flagged for copyright, because the music's quite loud and I don't like that. Well, obviously I do like that, but not when I'm recording, because obviously YouTube just, when the copyright gets thrown into it. So I'm probably going to put in some like audio distortion stuff to hopefully reduce that. So if my voice sounds a bit funny, that's probably why. But look at this anxiety hurdle we've overcome today, which is someone is training over there. They obviously are behind the wall. There's like 2 rooms to this gym. Fantastic gym. Shout out Gym Joint. 10 out of 10, love it. Normally my big anxiety is recording in public with other people around on my own. We're doing it now. So obviously, like I said in the car, we're doing shoulders and arms. The reason why we're doing shoulders and arms on their own day is because shoulders aren't particularly a weak point for me, but arms are a bit of a weak point for me. That's a lie. Triceps aren't, biceps are. I use this as like an extra day to kind of chuck in a bit of additional arm volume so I can train them, so the biceps and the triceps, multiple times per week. Don't need to, but I just choose to. Readout flies, the reason we're starting with them is because I kind of use this or treat this movement as like a bit of a warm-up movement, because I'm going to go from this into heavy pressing, and if I go straight into heavy pressing, I just feel a bit stiff. If I do a readout fly like such, it warms me up, so I don't feel as stiff, but also doesn't negatively impact my heavy pressing to the point where I'm now fatigued and the pressing is going to suffer too much. Ooh, it's quite heavy actually. Oh dear. Oh yeah, it's quite heavy actually. That's all right though. Yeah, it'll be right. Dear. That's really hard. That's a very tricky pickle. I don't even know why these are on. I'm not listening to anything because I'm talking to you. I think what I'm trying to identify, what I'm trying to get better at processing, we all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. And I think I can identify that, especially due to a product of illness, this last 12 months especially, a lot of my behaviors, like I said in the last video, haven't aligned with my moral compass. And I've been behaving in a manner that is not what I would typically deem to be me. And I can identify that I feel very guilty about those behaviors. I feel a lot of shame surrounding them. I can also identify that I can't change the past. The past is there. What I can do is learn from the past and identify that was then, nothing can be done about that. I can take accountability and responsibility and ownership for the mistakes I've made, the people I've hurt, and the upset I've caused, but what I can't do is change that. What I can do is prevent that from happening again by becoming better, investing a lot of energy into healing, into recovery, and into improving myself, not only as a friend, but also as a human and as a man, to be honest. And I think I can also identify that although BPD, DID doesn't excuse my behaviors, it does explain them. I would feel a lot more shame if I didn't do anything to change it. And I couldn't take responsibility or accountability to say, that was wrong, be that product of illness or not, it was still wrong, but I've now got the chance to fix it, and this is my kind of duty to fix it to stop that happening again. Because people don't need to be exposed to me when I'm having episodes. They don't need to be exposed. They don't need to be exposed to the behaviors of what those episodes might entail. It's not fair on anybody else. Again, I don't choose to be like that. I don't do it on purpose. It still doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it excusable for people to see it. So that's why I'm really trying to invest into being better so it doesn't happen again. Because I've lost some really important people in my life, which I'm finding very hard to process. But I can also identify they shouldn't have seen me at my worst in the first place. And it's my job and duty now to make sure I'm never that bad again. Where I've had these episodes where I have really upset people, where I have, like I said, acted incorrectly and wrongly, but also I've also really hurt myself as well. Obviously, I'm sure you can see from the marks on my arm that it's been a bit of a rocky ride. I'm not hiding that, I have no shame in hiding that. I often say to people, if you've got some scars, embrace it. They tell a story, they serve a purpose of a memory of what happened in the past. And I'm glad it happened because it's given me this opportunity to be better and take responsibility, but also they serve as a memory of what is now behind us. And although I had these episodes and these, where I start splitting, whatever you want to call it, I find it hard because one of the first things I go back to mentally, I feel like I should probably throw a trigger warning in here. I'm sorry that I forgot, I keep doing this. It'll be in the description. Number one is being self-harm. And the other one, in all honesty, as many of you know from what I spoke about in the podcast or even previous videos, would have been previously drug abuse. And that would be specifically benzos or opioids. Again, that's in the past now, but my brain still tries to make me go back there sometimes. And I have to desperately fight to not go back there, despite my brain convincing me it's the right thing. I try and separate and say, you know what, just because my brain tells me something doesn't mean it's the truth. All right, you're actually talking to me through the mirror today. Hello. Readout's done. So we're laughing. There's actually another person in the gym now, so this really is an anxiety test, but we're doing it anyway. Basically what we're doing now is obviously, like I said earlier, going on to the heavy pressing movement, which is going to be seated dumbbell shoulder press. At this gym, there is a machine press. I don't get along with it, honestly, and I think that's fine. I think sometimes there are just certain machines that you just don't work for your body, or maybe you just don't like, and that's essentially what's occurred here. So I'm going to do dumbbells. This gym has very heavy dumbbells, which is great, but it doesn't matter anyway, because my shoulder press is actually not very strong. My flat press, laughing. Dumbbell press, the 70 kilos, reps, no problem. Shoulder press, no thank you. I haven't done dumbbell shoulder press for a long time, but we'll start with 42.5 kilos each arm today, see how many we can get, and hopefully build up to the 50s plus over the course of now and Christmas, I guess. In fairness, it actually wasn't that bad. Like genuinely, again, like I said, I'm not very good at overhead pressing, so 42.5 for 8. First time doing this in a long time, not the end of the world. I think I gaslight myself a lot into thinking that, I like to think I try and do good things, try and be a good dude. The grand scheme of things, obviously I slip up, I'm not perfect, I make plenty of mistakes, but I think I gaslight myself into convincing myself and potentially even believing, might be true, maybe I'm not gaslighting myself, maybe it's just the truth. I'm actually just a horrible person. I'm actually like a really nasty person. Because I really lack like a real sense of self and identity, to be honest, because I can't rely on myself to answer that question honestly, and give myself like an accurate answer. I have to essentially rely on my friends. I have to get reassurance from them saying, like, am I nasty? Am I this? Am I that? Am I whatever it may be? You've known me for 10 years now, 15, 20 years. Who am I? Well, that's a big question I'm trying to actually answer myself at the moment is, who am I? Because I don't really know. I know who I'd like to be and who I want to be, but I don't really know who I am. The one thing that I'm trying to like identify at the moment is obviously it's very easy during periods of hardship, dwell and to think, why is this happening to me? I can't believe this has happened. I can't believe I've done this. But like I said, you can't change the past. What you can do is, to some extent, control whether you repeat the past and essentially can ultimately control the future. Going through these struggles, going through these declines, going through these blips of mental health hindrance, we'll say, and these episodes of like the last 12 months where mental health has really been in the pan is a real privilege. What a privileged position I am to be in, where I can face struggles and take responsibility for my failures, and what privileged position I'm in to still be here, be working through them. I'm almost treating it like a test of strength. I mean, if I can overcome that, surely other things might be easier to overcome. And if I can turn a negative into a positive, I did this, I did wrong, I was this way, my mental health was really bad, then in 6 months' time I can turn around saying, that's not who I am anymore. Mentally I'm better, my BPD, DID is managed, more controlled. I'm no longer showing symptoms, having these episodes, exposing people I care about to those things, and I'm mentally in a much more stable and comfortable position. What a privilege it's been to have dealt with this crap, essentially, to be able to come out the other side of it and say, I've done better, I've become better, I am better. I feel like I spent my life sat down, apparently, in these videos. Not mad about it, because I'd rather sit down because it's easy. Also, sorry about that like annoying like whistling you heard in the last video, and also probably in this video. That's the aircon, too hot to turn it off. I don't actually know how to turn it off, to be honest, so there we go. I was actually meant to be doing side raises right now, but someone was on the machine, so I started doing bicep curls. He's out off the machine, but I'm still doing bicep curls. Plan is, last set of these, standard bicep curls with the dumbbell, supinated, so palms facing the old ceiling, as the rider says, holding a bowl of soup. Again, slight incline, trying to get my elbows ever so slightly behind the body. Could you argue that might be slightly more lengthened position? Potentially. I'm just doing it because I didn't think the seat went up any higher. It turns out it does. I'm going to do a mechanical drop set on this one, which means once I kind of hit that failure point with standard bicep curls, I'm going to sit up ever so slightly and shift over to hammer curls, in which I might be able to get a few more reps. Again, once you shift from a supinated grip to a neutral grip, you kind of shift a bit of emphasis away from the biceps over to the brachialis, which is a muscle kind of like underneath the biceps. I'm going to be honest with you, expected more reps than the old hammer curls, didn't get more reps. That's embarrassing, isn't it? Also, I started DBT technically yesterday, so Thursday. I do it every Thursday until April 4th, I believe. I think a lot of the skills they're meant to obviously teach you are quite hard because they essentially go against what I've been doing, how I've been responding, and I think that's why they're skills to learn, because they essentially teach you how to reprogram your responses, your almost actions and just behaviors. So that's going to be quite hard to unlearn 29 years of essentially BPD behaviors or DID behaviors, or both. Well, my therapist does firmly believe it is in fact BPD and DID. So we'll say head behaviors, we'll say bad brain behaviors is what we'll call it. So that's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be hard, as it should be. But obviously I'm pairing that every Thursday with like up to 6 hours of individual therapy a week as well. Many hours of therapy, many hours of homework, but it'll be worth it. I know it kind of has to be worth it. I'm kind of at that point now where, for lack of a better term, it is kind of breaking point. I think what happened back in May, which is something I don't speak about because I'm not ready to speak about it, to be honest, was the worst day of my life. And unfortunately, things had been declining until that point. And obviously, as you saw from the last video, things haven't really got much better. They've obviously have declined further, not necessarily to individual significant bad days, but just a really bad period. Like I said earlier, what's happened has happened. It's now on me, my duty, my responsibility to do better, to get better, and to be better, not just for myself, but for those around me. Be a better person, be a better friend, be a better whatever I may be to somebody, be a better content creator, be a better source of information, education, and entertainment. I'm trying to kind of like really just be a better me. So the people I do care about, the people who do get to know me, never have to experience those behaviors, never have to experience those episodes and that splitting again. Like I said, I've lost some really, really important people recently, arguably some of the most important people to me, and I don't want that to happen again. But if I have the opportunity to rebuild those relationships with those important people one day, I want to make sure that I don't fail again. I don't continue past problematic behaviors due to illness and actually take ownership and say, I'm better now. I'm a better me. And like I said, I want how I have been previously due to what's been going on in my bad brain, we'll say, to be the nail in the coffin of that's the worst I will ever be again. And it's only up from here. And now this is very much almost a self-development journey through this mental health recovery journal of becoming better. Just a better me, a better friend, a better whatever I am to whoever is in my life. Am I on my own now? I'm probably on my own. I'm not gonna lie, I've just been sat on TikTok for the last few minutes. Basically, on the old side raise, like lateral raise machine, whatever we want to call it, when looking at like effective shoulder programming, in a lot of cases, it can be as simple as press, side raise, rear delts. That's all I kind of do for my shoulders. Obviously the delts are gonna get worked elsewhere, while I'm doing like chest, a lot of anterior delts, while I'm doing any pulling motion, a lot of rear delt, things like that. So it doesn't need to be that complicated. So now I'm jumping up to my last set of lateral raises and we're gonna move on to triceps to finish off. And as always, I'm gonna be taking things to, if not bloody close to failure, because I want to get bigger. And to get bigger, you've got to train hard. If you don't train hard, you're probably not gonna get much bigger. That was bloody hard, as it should be. To clarify, as it should be. The thing with training like intensity and training harder, it's, like I said, it's really hard to do, genuinely. But like with most things, it does get easier the more you do it. When you first went to the gym, first bench press, did whatever, it probably felt really hard. But as you got better at it, it became a bit easier, you got more comfortable. The intensity might have, but the movement itself didn't feel as foreign. But the same with training intensity, when you're training hard, it does get easier with time, but then you push yourself harder and harder, and you kind of chase the forever moving goalpost of intensity, of thinking, I can always do more, I should have done more, and I'm gonna do more. Push that, push that, push that. That's essentially how progressive overload occurs. You're chasing doing more every week. And that then accumulates and compounds, and over time you are going to build muscle if you are essentially getting stronger, increasing your reps, increasing your weight, whatever it may be. I actually got an interesting question on the last mental health journal I did. If you were to tell somebody that is going through the same thing as you advice on how to deal with BPD and mental health, what would you tell them? That's a really interesting question because I don't really know. There are so many things I could tell someone, so I guess it's trying to isolate just a few of them. I think one of them would be mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And what I mean by that is you cannot necessarily control how you act. You cannot necessarily control how you feel. And especially with BPD and things like that, you actually, in a lot of cases, especially before you've learned to manage it, you can't necessarily control what happens and how you behave and how you act in these episodes and splitting, whatever it may be. And to a large extent, that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to manage it. It is your responsibility to seek help, to go to therapy, to learn to get better, and at least try your best to manage it, to be able to better control it, to prevent episodes, to prevent splitting, to prevent the negative impact it might have on you, but also the people around you. If you don't take responsibility of it, and you continue to behave that way, continue to enable those behaviors without the desire to change or desire to seek help, despite how hard that might be, then I would actually arguably say in some cases, the fault may shift. Maybe it is your fault now because you're aware of a problem, but you're deliberately choosing not to do something about it, thus impacting yourself, but also impacting those around you. And that might upset a lot of people. It upset me a lot when I first kind of processed it, but it's true. See these struggles, see these periods of adversity and hardship as opportunities for you to grow and to become better. See these struggles as a privilege for you to learn and improve. If you've gone through the worst day of your life already, be thankful that at whatever age you are, the worst day that you will ever live through has already I look at what happened in May, the episode, the big incident I won't talk about because it's It's very personal, and it comes on to one of the things I spoke about in the last video about the third time something nearly happened. And I look at that saying that was hands down the worst day of my life. And let's say that's the worst day of my life forever. Let's say that's the worst day I will ever live through. What a privilege it is to be in a position where at 29 years old, I've already experienced the worst day of my life. Every day, although days in the future may be hard, and of course they're going to be hard, not every day is going to be amazing. You need the hardships, you need bad days to actually kind of be able to appreciate and experience and enjoy the good days. If that really was the worst day of my life and I will never experience a day that bad again, what an amazing thing to say. I've lived through the worst day of my life and no day will ever be as bad as that. And if I can get through that, no day going forward will ever defeat me. I can't guarantee it is going to be the worst day of my life, but I really hope it is, because I can't imagine how it could have got worse. All right, final movement today, the old cross-body extension. Trying to, again, probably not gonna do this very effectively, but I'm gonna try my best to flare my elbows slightly, keep my elbows ever so slightly either in line with the body or slightly behind the body, because then I can shift a bit more emphasis onto the long head of the tricep. No, you can't actually solely isolate a singular head. What you can do is shift greater emphasis over to a singular head based on the movements you're choosing to perform. Let's throw in a bit of triceps. It's actually technically off program, but I figured, you know what, I'm gonna add it anyway because your triceps can never be too big. Let's be honest. And I say that because every now and then I like to start bench pressing again and remind myself that I can lift. And if my triceps obviously get stronger, develop, that's gonna have a massive carry over to my bench press. And also, I just kind of want to do some triceps. That's good enough reason. That hurt my hands quite a lot actually. Ow. Bit of a side note, a little tangent. I think the music you choose to listen to when you're training is very important. You've got to choose a song or a band, whatever it may be, that actually gives you that drive to train. Increasing a certain emotion like sadness, aggression, whatever it may be. Lorna Shore. You can't go wrong with Lorna Shore. I've never loved a band as much as I love them. Slap a bit of Pain Remains on. Are you angry? Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna do both? Who knows? What a win. I guess to finish off the video, I kind of want to touch on one thing. I think what I kind of identify in myself is that I catastrophize a lot of things. Apparently that's actually quite a common symptom of BPD. Didn't know that. But also I think I find it very easy to feel a bit sorry for myself. Why is this happening to me? Do I deserve this? Things like that. But what I'm trying to get better at is identifying that how I think about things can change, but what has happened can't change. If I think, why is this happening to me? Do I deserve this? All these things. It's very much enforcing that negative emotion I might be feeling. But I'm really trying to get better at saying, that has happened to me, and what can I do to prevent it happening again? What can this teach me? What lesson can I learn from this experience? Rather than kind of fill my cup, we'll say, with self-pity and sympathy, which I think a lot of us do it sometimes. And well, actually, I think sometimes it's encouraged, and sometimes it could actually be quite good to do that. But it's about not doing that all the time, and actually saying, you know what, I'll give myself this period to wallow in self-pity, but now this has come, I've had my week of feeling miserable. If I'm gonna feel miserable, I'm gonna feel miserable anyway, but I'm at least gonna try and regain as much control as possible and spend this time shifting it, why has this happened to me, to what can I learn from this? What can this teach me? How can I prevent it from happening again? How can I grow and become better from this? Baby steps, easier said than done, much easier said than done. And like with anything, like with any mentality change, whatever it may be, you are going to face resistance, be that from people around you, or maybe even largely from yourself, but resistance isn't a bad thing. So that's episode 2 of the old mental health journal. So once again, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating this waffle, and thank you for tolerating the video.